How's it going, boys? What's up? Okay, for the longest time, these people all around the world... I'm Australian. Yes, I'm Australian. And for the longest time, everyone around the world keeps saying I don't exist. It's annoying. The hardest part about being Australian is putting on the stream filter that stops me being flipped upside down. So this is what it usually looks like when I'm streaming. Because the servers are hosted in America, I have to swap it over. For all my Australian viewers, you guys are just like, what the fuck? You didn't do anything. You're up the right way around. I know, but it's just something that we need to do. All right, I'm just gonna transfer it back. For the Australian viewers, just flip it back, okay? Like usual. Bro, I think I'm stuck. Oh no, there we go. Okay, the filter's back on. There is a literal person overseas who's a YouTuber that doesn't think Australia is going to exist. We're going to be watching this video now. Just kind of give it a little bit of a React Andy content. I know how much you guys love React Andy content. We're going to be watching a Sunny V2 video about a YouTuber that doesn't believe Australia is real.
This is Reynolds. He's a Scottish YouTuber who's convinced that the entire country of Australia doesn't really exist.
There's no proof that it exists. It's a fantasy. It's no more real than Narnia.
And while he'd eventually get into arguments with other large Australian creators, host podcasts in which he'd tell
That's me. I'm Australian creator. That is me. I'm very good. I also Australian.
And even attempt to visit the non-existent country himself, his conspiracy theory began to develop.
I went to Australia. It isn't real.
April 2014, when he'd start to express his hatred.
If you could destroy one country in the world, which would it be? This is without a doubt the easiest question to ever answer, because the answer is Australia.
How can you destroy us if we don't exist? Got him! You f***ing idiot.
That country is a waste of space. That country is the worst place on earth. Australia, bad.
That clip comes from
Bad. Fuck you.
one of the earliest videos posted to Reynolds'
Fuck
channel,
this guy.
and it highlights it in the
Sorry,
beginning.
I shouldn't
although
swear
he
so much, but
really
fuck
hated
this guy.
Australia, he still considered it a real place. Yet
Oh,
this
there
hatred
you go.
wasn't only confined to his YouTube channel. He'd post tweets such as a public service, I will personally burn Australia to the ground. Let's send Australia to space, as well as one final.
Oh, that'd be
reading,
sick.
if Australia
Yo,
wins
let's send Australia to space. That'd actually be kind of cool. If you put Australia in the northern hemisphere, would it flip upside down?
Eurovision, I will drown one puppy and burn one baby.
Yo!
Win by. Reynolds didn't specify exactly where this hatred had come from, although as time
Doesn't like
progressed,
Australia.
his dislike for the country only continued to grow. Just over 2 years after initially stating that he'd like to burn Australia to the ground, he'd upload a new video simply titled Down with Australia, in which he began to outline why he hated the country so much, with his first point being that we simply have an annoying accent.
Australians have the second most irritating accents on earth.
What did he just say? I can't hear him properly because of his annoying accent.
Only by South Africans. Every time I hear a pathetic Australian say, "my," I just want to punch them in their good-for-nothing liver. Since it's common knowledge that all Australians are alcoholics, a punch to an Australian's liver would most likely be fatal.
We're not alcoholics. We just enjoy a bevy. Relax.
Before he
Or
displayed
two,
a map
or
showing
three.
that Australians have an average IQ of 60, being the lowest out of any country in the entire world.
Speaking of how dumb Australians are, the image on screen now is an IQ map of the world. As you can see,
I'm the smartest person in
Australia
Australia,
has the lowest average IQ out of every single country on the planet.
Yeah, while these points showed that Reynolds
I'm the
still believed in Australia's
smartest person in the world,
existence,
actually.
It wasn't going to stay like this for much longer. Only 8 months after uploading Down with Australia, Reynolds' hatred for the country would transform into the belief that Australia didn't exist at all.
I was certainly pretty mad over the existence of Australia, and then without warning, I came across some guy on Twitter claiming that Australia does not exist. This was a theory I had never even considered prior to that.
We are real.
I just found out that Australia isn't actually a real place.
We are real.
I believe I was mad about that place for so long, it all makes sense.
We're real.
I, Reynolds, am an Australia denier.
Now, Reynolds' disbelief in
That's
Australia
fair.
wasn't exactly an original idea.
You can be an idiot.
He even claimed in the previous clip that his theory had been inspired by another user on Twitter. In fact, the conspiracy theory dates all the way back to November of 2006.
It's kind of
when the
honestly, it's kind of a base theory. Can we be the Mars people? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I want to be with the Mars people.
post was made to the Flat Earth forums. Most of you have probably been brought up believing in the imaginary land called Australia. I bet many of you even learned about it in school. Well, the fact is that Australia
Oh, we're
doesn't
famous. They learn about us in
Everything
school.
you've
That's
ever heard
sick.
about it was made up, and any pictures of it you have seen were faked by the government. I'm sure you've even talked to people on the internet who claim to be from Australia. They are really
Not me.
government agents who are surfing the internet to enforce.
We are not government agents.
these false beliefs. We're not exactly sure why the government made up an imaginary continent or why it
For the
is trying to
shits and
convince
gigs.
the world that this
I mean,
continent is
it's not
real.
made up.
We can tell you that we know for a fact that Australia doesn't really exist.
We're just shooting the
Please
shit.
join
Shits
us in
and
our
gigs.
quest
See
to
how many
convince
people we
the
can
world
make
of the
think
truth.
Australia
However,
exists.
As you might be able to gather from this reply, there wasn't exactly all that much evidence for the theory. There was one individual who posted a world map with and without Australia in the bottom right-hand corner, and while this didn't exactly constitute evidence, the lack of proof for the theory hasn't stopped a select
Pretty
group of
good.
people from believing it to be true. In April of 2018, more than 200 individuals gathered in the UK city of Birmingham to discuss whether or not Australia was real. And while it's easy
Okay,
to laugh
3
and
head
from a
people in
distance, one of the
Europe.
attendees
Oi,
actually had a
mate.
pretty reasonable argument
Any
for why the theory
Australians?
might be true. Australia is not real. It's a hoax made for us to believe that Britain moved over their criminals to some place. In reality, all these criminals were loaded off the ships into the waters, drowning before they could see land ever again. It's a cover-up for one of the greatest mass murders in history, made by one of the most prominent empires. Now, to give credit where credit is due, this post establishes a pretty solid motive for why someone might have wanted to fake the country. However, as the post continued, it
See
only
you, top.
got wackier, and the credibility began to crumble. Your Australian friends, they're all actors and computer-generated personas, part of the plot to trick the world. If you think you've ever been to Australia,
They're onto
you're
us.
terribly wrong. The plane pilots are all in on this, and have in all actuality only flown you to islands close nearby, or in some cases parts of South America, where they have cleared space and hired actors to act out as real Australians. However, this is the
They're
point
onto
where
us.
Rag Reynolds begins to stand out as unique, as he actually has his own theory for why Australia has been faked.
The theory goes like this. The founder of New Zealand hated how his people sounded when they spoke. It was necessary to make their country known as anything other than the worst received country known to man. So he got his council together and they put together a plan. They were going to take all of the worst parts of their culture, make it 50 times worse, ingrain it into the minds of 100 citizens with the lowest IQs, and then put those people into an abandoned city together with cameras on them 24/7. New Zealand had essentially set out to create a faux reality show in order to fool the world into thinking that there was a place worse than their homeland.
Rag Reynolds would then go on to add that Australia's unique wildlife, such as kangaroos, had been roboticized by New Zealand in order to reinforce the lie.
They decided it might be a good idea to start introducing strange new animals, so they created the robotic creature that we know today as a kangaroo.
With his evidence for this claim being a debate.org poll.
A poll shows that people are beginning to actually wake up and realise the truth that there's no Australia. 37% think yes, but 63% say no. A compelling argument is made here by a
it's
user
compelling.
going by the name of Massive Dump.
Rag Reynolds' conspiracy theory pitch would receive a
This is
dislike
bait.
ratio of over 94%.
This whole
However,
thing's
the
been
comments were
bait,
surprisingly
surely.
supportive. Being an Australian myself, I completely agree with this theory. I'm totally not a secret robot living on planet Oogly Boogly. Being from Australia, I'm shocked that such a genius found out our secret. We are all not real. Thank you for enlightening me on the heinous truth about Australia. I no longer think that it exists. Thank you, Rag Reynolds. However, while these Australians had successfully been convinced that they didn't actually exist, others needed a little more persuading, which led to a Rag Reynolds podcast episode on which he would invite 3 different Australians to argue about whether or not they existed.
I'm joined by self-proclaimed Australians as they're going to attempt to explain to me just why they think that Australia is a real place.
While the people on the podcast made some pretty reasonable points, Rag Reynolds couldn't be convinced, and if anything, judging by these videos, it would only further strengthen his belief that Australia wasn't real. However, it would be with these videos that the hornet's nest
I can't.
was stirred up, as shortly after posting them, other larger YouTubers began to make videos on the stupidity of Rag Reynolds' theory. The third largest YouTuber in Australia, Laserbeam, would upload a video titled "It Turns Out Australia is Fake."
No one's given literally any evidence. Nothing. They've just yelled at me and said it's fake.
Prompting a response
Sure.
titled "Dear Laserbeam, you are..."
It's just fake. Don't know what else to say. Alright, guys. That's my whole stream.